Hello, I'm Otto and welcome back to Dyson Sphere program. So in the last episode, we started setting up a smelting section, which we have not filled in yet. We're going to wait until we get the mall going before we fill some of this in. If you did have extras though, I would suggest putting those into the stone brick and the initial iron plates over here. The reason why is because this foundation is basically going to consume everything that we're making between these four. I've also limited the stack size to 1. That way, once it fills up, it will allow more materials to go through. So we also started setting up some components. And in this episode, we are going to continue with some of the components over here. We're also going to talk a bit about ratios and direct insertion and a few other things. And then at the end of the video, we're going to have a section over here for collecting a lot of these materials for both personal use and future logistics, as well as branching off. So we will, for instance, branch off the magnetic coils and the circuits to create some more science. We only have the science over here. So speaking of science, we're going to take a look at some of the items that we are going to need. So I'm going to go ahead and queue this one up, but this is the only one that I'm going to queue up for now. I would suggest queuing up some of these other ones. I'm only not going to do it because I don't want the screen, the pop-ups while we're discussing a lot of this, but this will be done by the time I'm out of this. So these are the final components that we're going to need for our bus. The prisms will be direct inserts into, or not quite direct inserts. The prisms are going to be very kind of like in their own little spot, and the only thing that we're going to be outputting is the plasma exciter, which needs magnetic coils and the prisms. Up until recently, like whenever I started designing this initial starting setup, the prism was pretty much only used for, not pretty much, it was only used for components. It was a component that was used primarily to create other components. There we go. So that changed a little bit when YouthCat Studios added the hollow beacon, which also requires prisms, which is rather unfortunate. We're not going to have this on our bus. In our mall, so we're not going to put the prisms on our bus. There are a few items that we very rarely need, and the plasma exciter is one of them. But we will be creating this at a decent capacity. I generally prefer to have either a full belt outgoing or full belt of incoming being consumed at a time, or at least the maximum capacity, just in case. This kind of covers if we need to handcraft things in a hurry, we can just gobble up a bunch of materials and it will be quickly replenished. So some of the other things that we're going to need is the fluid storage with the water pump. We're going to need the thermal power. We are going to need the oil processing, and then the energy is what we're going to be queuing up at this point in time. Like I said, I'm going to wait maybe the end of the episode. You can queue up the solar panels if you want, but we definitely need the belts. We need reclamation if you don't have it already. The smelting, purification, steel smelting should be obvious because that was one of the first things that we got whenever we started. And yeah, so you can also get the engines if you want, but we're not going to be making the battlefield analysis station for base for a bit. And we are also going to attack the dark fog directly soon, so that is something to look forward to. We will probably do that in the episode after the mall. So the mall is going to be in the next episode. Okay, so moving along before the dark fog attacks us, we need some steel. So we're going to follow the same scheme. We're going to line these up on the lines here, and I'm going to put some at the entrance and some at the exit. So we're only going to have 4 iron plates here and 4 steel. We're going to be branching off of the iron ore that is being used for the magnets over here. And then we're going to be using direct insertion here. So this is going to be iron plates. This is going to be steel. And normally, I generally prefer not to have direct insertion. I did say that we are going to have some other things direct inserted, but the main reason why I don't like direct insertion is I'm going to use some of these machines to kind of give you an idea. So you can kind of see the buffer on the incoming materials is pretty low. So we need 1 per second of these and 2 per second of these. Yes, and then this outputs 2 per second. So you can see that the incoming buffer is proportional to the amount that is needed to create the item. As for the smelters, on the other hand, you can see that this actually stacks up to a full 100, whereas this only stacks up to 20. This is normally a stack size of 200. So this is a 10% buffer from the quantity that can be stacked up for the initial item. This one is 100%. So what that means is that eventually, if there are any stalls, this item, this iron plate will stack up to 100. And looking at the ratio, so this is 1 iron ore creates 1 iron ingot in 1 second. So this is a 1-to-1 ratio and 1 per second. So we are crafting 1 per second and we are taking 1 per second off the belt. The steel, if we look at that, we need 3 iron ingots over 3 seconds. So this is still a 1-to-1 ratio. That means that for every one that this creates, this will constantly create iron ingots. And what this creates is enough to create the steel here. So that's 3 coming in over 3 seconds, or 1 per second, and then it is outputting 1 steel every 3 seconds, or 0.33 steel per second. So the downside is that once the iron ingot stacks up to 100, which it will inevitably do if you have any kind of stalling at all, what this means is that this will eventually buffer to 100, and then as it sends the 1 iron plate over, it will drop to 99 and immediately replace it up to 100. And then it will send another iron plate over, drop to 99, and immediately place it to 100. That means that the entire 99 to 100 that are being stored here are basically useless. The only exception to that, and this is a little bit of an exception here, is if you do not have a constant supply. When we get to the mid game, it's going to get to the point where you can almost guarantee that it will have a pure constant supply, and the buffer will just be completely pointless. You are saving up these materials for no reason. So for that reason, I largely prefer to have my iron plates separate from my steel. But in this case, it's okay, because the magnets that we're going to be setting up here will be consuming 4.5-ish, 4.5 iron ore per second. That will leave 1.5 for this section over here. These are not going to be creating at max capacity, and these are not going to be creating at max capacity, so they will just kind of bounce back and forth between which one is being used the most often. So something else is we've already determined that this is creating 1 per second. So that the sorter, we're going to take a look at that. This is moving 0.5 items per second. It has 0.5 trips per second, which means that if we want to have a full 1 per second being transferred over to the steel, we're going to need a second sorter. So now combined, these two will be moving 1 item per second. If you really wanted to, you could upgrade these to the Mark II, and that at this distance would move 1 per second. If this one was right next door, it would move 1.5 per second, as you can see right here. Do I have any at the second distance? Yeah, so this one is 0.75 per second. And the green one, the Mark II, is basically just double. So this would be 1 per second, this would be 1.5 per second, and this would be 3 per second. Anyways, moving along, so we're going to need to bring in ore, and then we will need to output steel, which will happen here. And then I'm just going to shift click this and shift click this to add in all of the sorters and the recipes for that. Okay, so that one is out of the way. We are going to be attacked by the dark fog very soon. So we've also unlocked the silicone. So we have the start of the silicone here and the end of the silicone here. And as you can see, we have 10 stone being crafted over 10 seconds, so 1 per second, into 1 silicone ore every 10 seconds, which means that we are creating 0.1 per second per machine, we're going to have 5 machines here, so that is 0.5 per second total. And the high purity silicone needs 2 ore over 2 seconds, or 1 per second. So we're only going to be creating half of what we need. And then if this was full, if this was at capacity, this would be creating 1 silicone every 2 seconds, but in this case it's going to be creating 1 silicone every 4 seconds, since we do not have the, or will not have the supply on this end. This is a very, very, very slow process. We would need 10 machines making, turning stone into silicone ore if we wanted to fill up a single smelter. We do not have silicone or titanium available on this planet, so if you want the early silicone, this is how you would do it. This is also a very good way of completely decimating a stone patch. So we are going to have a stone patch that's in the way over here. We are not going to be getting rid of it. We're going to bury it. And yeah, so that is our silicone. So the next component, we're going to need glass for this. And I'm going to carry the glass all the way through because this will be on the bus. So lining this up, we're going to have a section here and a section here. So this is going to be our prisms. And this is going to be our plasma exciters. So the prisms will need glass. Now, if you remember from the last episode, we determined that this is going to be creating not 6 per second, it's going to be consuming 6 stone per second off the 6 per second belt, and is going to be creating 3 glass per second once all 6 of these are in place. So 3 per second. So if we look at the prisms, you can see we need 3 every 2 seconds. So we're going to have 2 machines, which will take 6 every 2 seconds, which means 3 per second. So these 2 machines will consume all of the glass that we have if there are none available. You will in general see that it's very rare for both of these to be completely active and consuming all of the glass. And oh, here comes the dark fog. This will be something that is perfectly fine. It's not like these will constantly consume all the glass and never let glass through. These will kind of stall at some point and then allow the glass to go through. As for the plasma exciters, we need the prisms. So we're going to drop a belt right back here. These will output here, and these will input into the plasma exciters. So let's see where the dark fog is coming from. Looks like over this way. We still have some time. And I did say that this needs magnetic coils. So since we have all of our belts laid out, we're going to take the magnetic coil here. We're going to double up on this. Come on, guys. You can do it. There they are. Okay, so let's get the dark fog out of the way. Looks like they're coming from the south. And there will be another wave. Oh, that was small. There it is. The other wave's coming from the other side. Oh no, that just got, it was completely split around the planet. That's doesn't happen very often. That's largely because we decided not to, we decided to start in this section. If we had moved to a different location, they would have all come from the same direction, but this is perfectly fine. Even though we're very slow, there's not a lot of them, and our laser is taking care of most of that. So we still have 8 ammo left. So yeah, the dark fog, not an issue. The next time the dark fog attacks, we will be a little bit more prepared and have some turrets down. We might even be able to get rid of the dark fog from the planet before they attack again. We will see. Anyways, back to the plasma exciters. So we're going to run a belt right through the middle from these 2 magnetic coils over to the plasma exciters. We're then going to have these come out onto this belt and go into the plasma exciters from this side. And yes, we will need some kind of power. Right here's fine. This will be out of the way. That allows us to leave this section open. If you wanted to put, like, I don't know, solar panels, if you had some, you could fill all these blank spots in to almost 100% cover this section. So for instance, I can't really show it, but this would fit right here. I can use these. These are the same size. So you can see that something the size of a solar panel would fit in between a lot of these machines, which is also part of kind of the awesomeness of how this is all working out. Anyways, we need somewhere for the plasma exciters to come out, so that is going to be here. And one of these belts is perfectly fine. Okay, so that is basically all of our components. So now we're going to set up a section here for collecting the components. But before we do that, I want to grab some of the foundation because we are going to bury the stone, and I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So I am going to get my foundation and put it in my hand, but we don't necessarily want to, like, it would be kind of a waste if we just plopped all of this down. I also like to use the naked foundations. So I'm going to hit the minus key and drop this down to 1. We're also going to bury the veins. So I'm just going to click in these areas. And bury that ore. Now, we can unbury this later. It's just as simple as unburying it. So this is not permanent, and I just wanted to get these out of the way. Okay, so for our components, I'm going to back some of this up a little bit. The way that we're going to be collecting them is similar to what we did with these, the coal over here. As a matter of fact, I'm probably going to need some more soon. Yeah. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to extend some of these belts into, they're already here. Never mind. Anyways, we're going to have a little bit of a setup. So the way that we're going to set this up is we're going to have one belt coming through the middle, and then one belt below the wind turbines and one belt above the wind turbines. So this is going to be split into sections of 3. So that will be 3 here. The middle one is aiming for the central point. And we're going to have 10 items here. Like this. And the way that we're going to collect these is we are going to use the splitter. And we're going to hit tab to have this kind of be the narrow version, and we're going to put this as close, we're going to line it up as close to the wind turbine as possible, and then place them in the slots that we're going to be placing. So it will look something like this. And then these will get a chest on top, and we're going to limit the first one to 1 stack. That way we can shift click this and just add these on, and these settings will carry over. Like that. And we do not need to filter these, so this will be perfectly fine. Okay, so the way that we're going to get these in, it's going to be a little janky. There's going to be a little bit of spaghetti, but that is perfectly fine. So we're going to drop the iron down here. The stone brick will go second. Gears will come down here. The copper can go straight through. The circuits are going to come down, and you kind of see that I'm kind of giving some extra space. The reason why is because of the magnetic coils. So we're going to have the magnetic coils come over these two and drop into here. So that is iron plates, stone brick, gears, circuit boards, magnetic coils, copper. Next up is we're gonna drop the glass down. So the glass will eventually come down. We're gonna hold off. So the steel can go straight in here. Yeah. The silicone can also go straight in. And then the glass and the plasma exciters can drop down. And I do not know why the magnets are so far back, but we can back that up. All right, and this is effectively going to be, this is basically going to be our little bus setup. Something else that we're going to do that I like to do is we are going to aim for the middle. You can kind of see that that is this section here. And we're going to set a little icon. So I'm going to set this to whatever is coming along the line. So this is iron ingots. This is stone brick. This is gears. Circuit boards. Wherever those are, here they are. Magnetic coils, copper. This is glass, plasma exciter, steel, and silicone ore, or sorry, so high purity silicone. There we go. All right, so that is generally how we're going to have this set up. There will be some sections. We're not going to add too many of the wind turbines. There will be sections like right here that we will need some extra space, but we can kind of continue to set these out in this direction. And the advantage, as I've said before, is that all of what we're going to be doing on this bus, yes, it takes up a lot of space from top to bottom, but all of this can be built completely over water. So this completely frees up the need for any foundation other than the mall section. The mall will be here. It will be quite long, same with the bus, and then we will drag items off of the bus as needed. And we are going to do that in the next episode. So that is it for me for this one. We are also going to need to unlock blueprints. So you definitely want to grab 100 of the circuits. And I'm also going to finish some of these in between this episode and the next. So I'm definitely going to get the blueprints. I'm going to get the increased capacity for inventory space. I'm going to get the engine that allows us to fly. And I'm going to add in the extra power generation. So I'm going to do a few of those. I'm also going to queue up the, let's see, where do they go? Fluid storage is what we want next. The thermal power. The oil processing, the matrix lab we can wait for that one. If you want to add solar panels to your mall, then we can add those in too. I am personally not going to be doing that. And then I'm going to get some of this stuff as well. Yes and yes. Okay, so I'm going to finish a lot of this off in between this episode and the next. So in the next episode, like I said, we're going to start working on a mall, and we are going to have a bit of a fun time to start with, because I'm going to allot some extra space for some of the items that we will be making early on. So our belts and sorters. Oh, also one more thing before I go. I did say that we are going to be pulling off from these two. I think I said that anyways. So I'm going to hit up on the arrow key after we grab our belt. I'm going to hit up on the arrow keys and drag this out to just before the iron line, and then we're going to hit down to drop that back down a notch. This is going to be for our science coming up. Same over here. I'm going to hit up on the arrow key and drag this over to one slot before the last belt, and then hit down. And yeah, so we will have a section down here for science, and this is where that is going to start. Okay, that is it for me for this episode. Like I said, in the next episode, we're working on the mall. Hopefully we'll be able to get most of the mall complete. We will work on some more science, and then yeah, that is what we're going to be doing. Once we unlock blueprints, I will have some blueprints available in my Discord, so I will leave the link to that in the description below. And yeah, that is it for me. I will see you in the next episode, and thanks for watching.